Jaja Binks, Jaja Binks. Me say your humble servant, Jaja Binks, Jaja Binks. Oh, muy, I love you, Jaja Binks. Me say go Jaja Binks.
Hello everybody, some would say I'm the reverse, and welcome to the 6th installment in my Flash rewatch / re-ranking, where I go back and rewatch the entire series and rank each and every episode on a tier list. Today we are going to be ranking all 19 episodes of The Flash Season 6. As you can see, I've kind of redone my tier list. I've just added a lot of color to it, color-coded each season. So you can see that Season 1 is yellow, Season 2 is blue, Season 3 is light blue, Season 4 is purple, Season 5 is orange, and Season 6 is red. So when we add Season 6 episodes into the mix, they'll be red. So yeah, Season 6. I've always really loved this season, and on this rewatch, I loved it just as much. It's probably my third favorite season. I think it's far better than 4 and 5. It's about on par with Season 3, but I'd say it is better. I think Season 6A is just so incredible. I think it's honestly on par with Seasons 1 and 2. Whereas 6B is I'd say it's worse than Season 3. But about on par with Season 4 and 5 in terms of the overall story. It does have some fantastic standalone episodes, though, and I'll get to those. But overall, Season 6 was really, really fun. So yeah, let's just jump right into this with, of course, Season 6, Episode 1, titled Into the Void. This episode is a lot of fun. It's a good premiere. I like how Barry and Iris are mourning Nora, so it actually feels like last season mattered. When this episode came out, I was worried that they would kind of just drop all that because it was a new showrunner and everything, but they actually did a decent job. The Chester P. Runk storyline with the black holes and stuff was kind of boring until the end when Barry with his new suit jumps into the black hole with the Flash Gordon music. That was just such an awesome scene. But yeah, overall, this premiere does a decent job of setting up little things, like it sets up Bloodwork, it sets up Godspeed, who actually doesn't come until Season 7, interestingly enough. Like I said, it does a good job of, paying off what happened in Season 5. We get Barry's new suit, which is my favorite suit of the Flash ever. Season 6 through 8, eventually he gets a little upgrade, but yeah, it's a good episode. I think it's probably like mid B tier, high B tier. I'm going to put it above Flash vs. Arrow. I do really like that episode, but this episode definitely coming back strong after a mediocre Seasons 4 and 5. I just thought it was a really, really good episode. Season 6, Episode 2, titled A Flash of the Lightning. This episode was fantastic. I don't know, this episode was just really well done, really well written, well shot, well acted. Basically, Barry tries to go to the future to watch Crisis, because last episode the Monitor showed up and told him that he'd die. It didn't work because the antimatter blocked him from going to the future. So he went to Earth 3 to basically transmit his consciousness to the future, which it doesn't make too much sense, but it was really cool anyways. The scene of him actually watching Crisis was great. It was cool getting little snippets of what's going to happen, and Grant's acting is just great. I mean, I don't know, it was something about this episode, even though, of course, with hindsight, we know that Crisis was a letdown. Barry didn't die. None of the stuff that Season 6A was really building towards really actually happened. But this episode actually still really hit. It was actually really emotional nonetheless, which is really surprising, and it just shows how good the writing and the acting was in this episode. The side plots in this episode left a little to be desired. I didn't like the Frost stuff with her becoming an artist. That was a waste of time. Really cringy and cheesy. But the Allegra stuff was actually a lot better than I remembered. The Allegra, Cecile, and Ultraviolet storyline was pretty good, especially when Ultraviolet and the Flash face off at the end, when those two storylines converge. Really good stuff. Joe's pep talk again, really well acted, really well shot, really well written. Overall, just a great episode. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I'm going to put it below the season 5 finale, just because that episode, had a Reverse Flash being awesome, and it was a finale, so yeah. Season 6, episode 3 is titled Dead Man Running. This episode was all about the Bloodwork storyline. Not quite full Bloodwork yet, but we do have Mitch Romero as a blood brother. It's Ramsey's first zombie blood brother, and all the Ramsey stuff in this episode was really good with Mitch Romero, and his scene with Barry was great. The writing this season, at least 6A, really, really good. I mentioned it last episode. This episode, there's a scene where Ramsey and Barry are in the in Star Labs, and Ramsey tells Barry he needs something. Barry leaves the room, and Ramsey starts to steal the dark matter, but Barry comes right back in and catches him red-handed. Just really good writing. Barry's being competent. Really good stuff. And him and Ramsey's scene, their heart-to-heart about death and coming to terms with that. Really well done. Really well done stuff. And then we also get our new Nash Wells in this episode, and he's great in 6A. He's also great in 6B, but overall just a really good episode. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think it's better than Into the Void. I'm going to put it below Flash of Two Worlds, just because I feel like that episode did a fantastic job of introducing the multiverse and Jay Garrick and Sand Demon. It introduced all these cool concepts in a really awesome way. And this episode is really good, but it just doesn't compare to that. Next is Season 6, Episode 4, titled There Will Be Blood. This episode was fantastic. We dive even deeper into Bloodwork as Ramsey actually becomes the villain. The horror elements with Ramsey at the hospital were great. With a Halloween episode for once, we never really get those. Flash and Frost in the hospital, really awesome duo. I really like them fighting together, especially with their new suits. They look really awesome. Everything in the hospital was great. We also had the whole McCulloch storyline where Nash, Cisco, and Barry break into McCulloch to get the serum to save Ramsey. That was really fun. Another instance of really good writing was when Cisco stole the serum so he could use it on Barry to save him from Crisis, and then Barry caught him like 2 scenes later, and that was just really well handled. And then of course we have the Barry and Joe heart-to-heart at the end of this episode, one of the most emotional scenes of the entire show. Really well done episode. Just the horror elements, the drama, the emotion, it was just all there, and it came together to make a really satisfying episode. The only flaw I have with it, the only problem, is that the pacing is a little off. They take a little while to get to all of the Ramsey stuff in the hospital, but other than that, it's a fantastic episode, and I'm going to put it in the A tier. I'm going to put it above The Sound and the Fury, which I love. I love that episode. It's just that this episode dealt with, it was completely relevant to the season-long story, or at least the mid-season-long story, whereas Sound and the Fury, there were, of course, hints at what's to come, but it was mostly a villain of the week. Next, we have Season 6, Episode 5, titled Kiss Kiss, Breach Breach. This is kind of a weird episode because there's very little Barry, there's no Flash action, it's just a Cisco episode, but it was a really good one at that. Carlos did a great job playing not only Cisco, but also Echo, who's Cisco's Earth-19 doppelganger. He was great in that role. Breacher was great in this episode, and so was Camilla, surprisingly, was great in this episode. Overall, I just feel like this episode was really well done. The way that the murder mystery plotline was unraveled, the way that it was shot and filmed and paced and structured and everything acted. It was a really well done episode, and I had a lot of fun with it. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I'm going to put it... I think it's pretty equal to Into the Void in terms of quality, but I do think it is a little weaker. I'm going to put it underneath. I'm going to put it behind Flash vs. Arrow. Just because, of course, that episode is a classic. But, yeah. really good episode, even though there was very little Flash action. Next, we have Season 6, Episode 6, titled License to Elongate. This episode was a Barry and Ralph episode, just like Gold-Faced from the last season. This episode, I think, was better, as they're looking for Sue Dearborn. It's not quite as filler as Gold-Faced was. They go to this party, Ultraviolet's here, there's a Bond villain, not literally a Bond villain, but a James Bond style villain. That's kind of what this episode is. It's a James Bond homage episode. Overall, I'm not a huge James Bond fan, but I did still find this episode pretty fun. A little cheesy at times, but it was self-aware, it was on the nose, and it was tongue-in-cheek, and I really liked it. The highlight of this episode for me was the Barry and Ralph stuff, where Barry's kind of preparing Ralph for post-crisis, especially when Elongated Man and Joe give Barry the Medal of Honor at the end. That was a really awesome moment. And yeah, overall, probably the weakest episode thus far, but not bad by any means. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. I'm gonna put it below True Colors. That episode had some cool DeVoe stuff at the end, and it looked really, really awesome. I really liked the colors in that episode. I mean, it's a season 4 episode. It's visually appealing by nature, but yeah, this episode was a really fun one. It's just one of the weaker episodes of the season, in my opinion. Next we have season 6, episode 7, titled "The Last Temptation of Barry Allen," part 1. I'm just gonna go and put this right in the S tier right away. Behind Enter Flash Time. This episode was just such a fantastic episode. Basically, Ramsey has infected Barry, and we get some really intense scenes of Barry going through these visions. He's seeing all these tombstones of all the people that have died for his mission. You know, all the Welleses, Eddie, Ronnie, Stein, I believe maybe might be there, Nora Allen, Nora West Allen, just everyone he's lost, Henry Allen, and then we see him trying to grab baby Nora in the vision. We see him watching as the Flash uses Ramsey's lifeblood to save people, because that's what Ramsey's trying to do. He's trying to offer Barry his lifeblood. Overall, I just really loved this episode. Of course, it's the best episode of the season. It's one of the best episodes of the show. I don't know what else there is to say. It's just great episode. Brilliant acting by Grant, and by what's his name, Sendil Ramamurthy or something. Ramsey's actor, he does a great job. Michelle Harrison does a great job as the Speed Force. Overall, it's just an awesome episode, and yeah, it's one of the best of the show. Season 6, episode 8, titled "The Last Temptation of Barry Allen," part 2. Last episode, I didn't mention it, but the whole Dark Flash ending, the big, cliffhanger, that's what this episode's all about, is the zombie apocalypse with Ramsey and his right-hand man, Dark Flash. I love that dynamic right there. I think having Barry as the right-hand man to the villain is just such a fun dynamic. The main reason why I love this episode so much is because it's just so well directed, so well shot. Again, it's a zombie apocalypse episode, but the way that it's done, the city's in a blackout, and we get the whole Cecile, Camilla one shot of them trying to escape the citizen office. It's brilliant. It's really well done. We get Ramsey and Dark Flash in Star Labs. We get awesome shots of them. I don't know. It just feels like a really well-made episode. And it's a really good episode, just writing-wise and story-wise as well. Everything with Dark Flash is great. The Flash versus Bloodwork final fight, with Bloodwork with the big monster, that's really well done. Overall, it's just a fantastic end to this arc, and it does a great job of setting up Crisis too, with the whole Red Skies thing and Nash becoming Pariah. I just love this episode so much. I'm gonna put it in the A tier. I'm gonna put it behind Tricksters, simply because that episode has Mark Hamill. This episode does not. There's nothing you can do about that, but overall, such a good mid-season finale and such a good episode. Next, we have Season 6, Episode 9, titled Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. Of course, this is a crossover episode. I'm not a huge fan of crossover episodes compared to normal episodes, just because, I mean, crossover episodes are almost all the time. It's just a bunch of superheroes standing in a circle or in a line with their costumes on, about to fight some intergalactic, dimensional threat. It's nothing special story-wise. This one, it's really good. It's my favorite crossover episode that we've gotten from the Flash show, and it's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite or my second favorite episode of the Crisis event. We got some really cool cameos with the Earth 90 Flash, I almost said Black Panther, Black Lightning, Birds of Prey. We got Lucifer. We got all these different people showing up, and then of course we have the destruction of Earth 1 at the end, and Nash Pariah sends all the Paragons to the Vanishing Point. Just really good stuff. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to put it in the A tier, below Runaway Dinosaur, but above Finish Line. I think there's a really distinct kind of jump between those episodes, so I'm going to stick it right in the middle of those. Next, we have Season 6, Episode 10, titled Marathon. This is the official mid-season premiere, the start of the 6B storyline. This episode deals mostly with Black Hole and the mystery behind that, and Joseph Carver, and what happened to Eva. Yeah, it's an Iris-centric episode, so you'd think it's bad, but it's really not. I actually really liked it. For multiple seasons, we've been waiting for the showrunners and the writers to give Iris a reporter storyline, because that's who Iris is in the comics. She's a reporter. And finally, we're getting some of that. Unfortunately, it's cut short. It's just this episode, because she does get pulled into the Mirrorverse. But it is really good while it lasts in this episode. So yeah, Dr. Light, she's not a very interesting villain in terms of character, but, she has a cool design with the whole light-up eyes and everything. So she serves as a decent villain. The only big flaw with this episode, in my opinion, is actually the Barry storyline with the Dig. That was a complete waste. I don't know what they were doing with that. But other than that, it's a decent episode. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I am going to put it above I Know Who You Are, but below Attack on Gorilla City. Since I Know Who You Are is just, other than the ending scene, it's just the search for Tracy Brand. Not a great episode. But yeah, overall, Marathon was a decent start to Season 6B. Next is Season 6, Episode 11, titled Love is a Battlefield. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this. It's very simply the worst episode of the season. We got Amunet, we got Goldface, we got Mirror Iris. Just not a good formula for success. It's not as bad as people say. I'm actually going to put it in the D tier, the very bottom of the D tier. I don't think it's actually quite an F tier episode. Simply because it does have some redeeming qualities. There's some funny moments with Barry. For example, when Iris is in the bar, Mirror Iris is in the bar, and she breaks a bottle over the guy's head, and he's screaming, "Banana, banana, banana," as their code word. That was really funny. We also got the start of the Nash storyline, where he's getting haunted by the other Wells. Overall, it's not a very good episode. Weakest of the season, but I just don't think it's an F tier. And I know some people will scoff at that and say it's the worst episode of the entire show, but I don't think it's that bad. It's bad though. So, bottom of the D tier for me. Next is Season 6, Episode 12. This one is called A Girl Named Sue. This one, of course, is all about Sue Dearborn, Ralph and Sue. Their dynamic is just so awesome. I really love Sue as a character. I think Natalie Dreyfus is just so good in the role. I don't know, maybe it's because I have a crush on her or something. I think she's awesome as Sue. She and Ralph have a really good chemistry. I wish they would have been able to do that whole storyline before Hartley got kicked off the show. But yeah, it's really good in this episode nonetheless. We got Ultraviolet back. We got what else do we got? I don't know. It's just a really, really good episode. We got more Nash stuff going on with him being haunted by the wells. Overall, I'm going to put it in the B tier below Family of Rogues. That episode has Captain Cole. This one does not. It's as simple as that. And then, yeah, above Death of Vi, because that episode, not too special, but yeah. Overall, this episode, Sue and Ralph are the stars. Really, really enjoyed their chemistry, their dynamic. Season 6, episode 13, titled Grodd Friended Me. This episode is so fun. This is a Grodd episode. It's my favorite Grodd episode that the show's ever done. We have a mindscape episode where Barry's pulled into Grodd's mind, and then overall, just the whole Grodd Flash, Grodd Speed, whatever you want to call him, Speedster Gorilla, it's fantastic. Other stuff that happens in this episode, at the beginning we got some crisis stuff, post-crisis stuff with Hartley showing up again, that was cool. Barry looking for his parents' grave, just some cool post-crisis stuff. And then, of course, we have the cliffhanger at the end of the episode. Nash sees Sherlock, whose eyes start glowing red, and it's a reverse Flash tee, so really good episode. I'm going to put it in the A tier. Again, it's the best Grodd episode we've gotten. I'm going to put it above the present, but below the Wrath of Savitar. I think Wrath of Savitar is a great episode. The present is good as well. It's just, yeah, there's a noticeable jump between those two episodes, and Grodd Friended Me, I think, fits right in that little nook. So, yeah. Next, we have Season 6, Episode 14, Death of the Speed Force. This episode was fantastic. We have the return of Wally. He comes back, and he's all zen. He's in tune with the Speed Force. He has all these new abilities. Really, really awesome stuff. All the Speed Force stuff in this episode's great. Really well shot. The visuals are impressive, well acted. All the Nash stuff is great in this episode as well, as Reverse Flash starts to actually control Nash's body. And, the only really negative thing I have to say is the Turtle 2 stuff is kind of tacked on. It was cool seeing Wally and Barry fight alongside each other as Kid Flash and Flash again, and the fight scene in CCPD was cool. I liked all the wire work with them running on the walls. That was good. But, I don't know, I feel like Turtle 2, overall, that whole storyline just wasn't as entertaining as the rest of the episode. But yeah, I'm going to put this episode in the A tier. I'm going to put it right below those Earth 2 episodes. I think this episode is really underrated, and it's really, really good. There's also a lot of little stuff in this episode, like Mirror Iris shooting Camilla and sending her to the Speed Force, or not the Speed Force, the Mirrorverse, excuse me. It's just a really, really entertaining episode, really visually interesting. That's all I gotta say. Season 6, episode 15 is titled The Exorcism of Nash Wells. This is like the third fantastic standalone episode in a row. Like I said, 6B, the whole overarching storyline isn't great, but there's a lot of really good standalone episodes, and this is one of them. The Exorcism of Nash Wells, as you can tell by the title, deals with the Nash Wells storyline. This time around, the Reverse Flash is fully in control of his body. He's about to get his powers back, and they're performing an exorcism, trying to exorcise. Is that the right word? I don't know. They're trying to get rid of the negative tachyons of the Reverse Flash. He's basically a ghost now. It's a really cool storyline. The only thing I don't really like about this episode is the Sunshine stuff. With Sunshine, obviously the black hole, Metahuman trying to steal like the device or whatever it's called, the refractor. I can't remember if that's what it's called, but that's the only negative part of this episode for me. The rest of it, everything to do with Nash and Reverse Flash, was really well done in my opinion. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put this episode in the A tier along with the last two. This one is probably my least favorite of the three. I'm gonna put it below The Flash Reborn, but overall, it's a really good episode, and I really enjoyed it. Season 6, Episode 16, So Long and Goodnight. This episode's a little bit weaker, definitely one of the weaker episodes of the season. Basically, this one is all about Joseph Carver trying to get rid of Joe through lethal means. He sends Ragdoll after Joe, who is always a welcome surprise. There are a few really dumb moments in this episode. For example, Ragdoll, at one point, Joe shoots at him, and he does this weird spinning thing to send the bullets back at Joe. That was really dumb. At one point, Ragdoll cuts Joe's brake line on his car, and it's going 120, and Joe just jumps out and ducks and rolls and survives gets up without a scratch. It's really weird. And then at the end, Joe goes into Witsec, and it's this big emotional scene. And then 2 episodes later, we see Joe again, and it doesn't really lead to anything. I don't know. It's a really weird episode. Yeah, and I've said before in this very video, a big factor as to why I like these episodes is how well shot and well directed they are. This episode feels very loose and almost amateurish in its filming. There's nothing interesting going on with the way they film this episode. Grodd Friended Me, Death of the Speed Force, Exorcism of Nash Wells, those episodes were all really fun, but they were also all really visually entertaining to watch. They were all really well shot. This episode feels very boring to look at, almost like it's a season 3 episode or something. I don't know. It's a really weird episode, but I'm gonna put it in the C tier. I'm gonna put it above True Colors, just because this episode has Ragdoll in it, who I love. So yeah. This episode is definitely one of the weakest of the season. Next we have season 6, episode 17, titled Liberation. This episode, it's a lot better than it has any right to be. This is all about Mirror Iris, but this actually is really, really good. Mainly because Grant is really good in this episode, and finally Barry figured out that this isn't Iris, it's Mirror Iris. That's the main reason why I love this episode so much, is just finally Mirror Iris, the cat's out of the bag. Everyone realizes that this is not Iris. So, yeah. Really good scenes in this episode, too, as Barry uses the device on Mirror Iris to show that she's a mirror clone. It doesn't work. She uses it on him, and it shows that he's a mirror clone. That was a cool twist. I didn't see it coming the first time around. And it's a cool scene. And then, of course, the big final fight between Barry and Mirror Iris was really good. Overall, it's just, it's a pretty good episode. I just think it's, despite all the Mirror Iris stuff, which I'm not a fan of, I think it was really refreshing to finally get to the end of it. So, yeah. We also get Bloodwork in this episode. He returns for the one and only time since his finale. Hopefully he comes back in the final season, but as of right now, this is the last time we've seen him, and he was pretty good in this episode. So yeah, overall, it's a decent episode. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I'm going to put it below Darkness in the Light. That episode, of course, has the introduction to Harry Wells. It has the blind date. It has Dr. Light. And that's a really good episode. So, yeah, I'm going to put this episode under Darkness in the Light. Next, we have our penultimate episode, Season 6, Episode 18, titled Pay the Piper. This episode, even if it wasn't the penultimate episode, it's a really weird placement. I don't know, this episode feels out of place. On its own, though, it is a pretty entertaining episode. Basically, Godspeed shows up, and to help against him, they get Hartley. So, yeah, we have Flash and Hartley versus Godspeed. It was cool seeing them team up, Flash and Hartley. I don't know, there's not much to say about this episode, except that it was cool to see a speedster fight between Flash and Godspeed again, and, yeah, I don't know, it's cool that they brought back Godspeed and Pied Piper in one episode. Overall, pretty good episode. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I'm going to put it below I Know Who You Are, but above Paradox. Yeah, I'm happy with that placement. Next, we have our impromptu finale, Season 6, Episode 19, titled Success is Assured. This episode was fine. It was a fine episode overall. Basically, Joseph Carver is being hunted by Mirror Monarch, aka Eva, as well as all the black hole people that she turned to her side, Ultraviolet, Sunshine, and Dr. Light. They're all hunting Joseph Carver. So Team Flash is protecting him, which is kind of a dumb storyline. This episode actually managed to feel like a finale, somewhat, despite not originally supposed to be the finale. We had a big fight scene at McCulloch Tech between Team Flash and Black Hole. I didn't actually like the fight scene very much. I thought the whole comic, panel thing that they were doing was dumb. Other than that, Eva kills Joseph Carver, so that gives it a sense of finality, because that was one of the main parts of her plan. So, I don't know, overall it's a decent finale, but I actually think this episode is pretty weak overall. I think the whole Joseph Carver plotline is weird. Team Flash, I don't know why they're protecting Joseph Carver. He's an evil dude, just let him die. I know they're not all about that, but I really don't care. And then, of course, like I said, the fight scene between Team Flash and Black Hole was weird and too stylized and goofy for me. But overall, yeah, I'm going to put this episode in the C tier. I'm going to put it below True Colors, which puts it above License to Elongate. Overall, I just think, it could have been better. Like I said, it has a sense of finality to it with the fight scene and Joseph Carver's death and the cliffhanger with Iris disappearing. It actually somewhat kind of finds a way to feel like a finale, but as an episode, I don't think it's too great, so yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for my Season 7 and 8 tier lists. I'm excited to get into those since I haven't seen those seasons, but I have heard some negative things about those seasons, so I have mixed feelings going into them. So yeah, stay tuned for those. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. See ya.